get to it today. I don't think we'll get to it today, but it may be possible if we... but we shall see. So, all right. Get to it today. I don't think... I keep forgetting because we get so wrapped up in the actual subject matter of the Bhagavatam that we forget to do our pranams, which is not proper. So let's just go for it. Maybe one of you, if you need to read, would you like to scroll so everyone could see? Onto the gurus. Thank you. Both Shiksha and Diksha gurus. We are actually approaching Srila Prabhupada's beautiful presentation of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first presentation in English, at least from the pure bhakti standpoint. If we read this Srimad Bhagavatam and actualize its teachings, we can have all perfection in this life. And even if you are like me and you read it and you're not qualified for perfection, it will still perfect you. And myself, I can say from experience, I'm a lot better off after going through the Bhagavatam and studying it than I was before. So I'm coming from a really low place in this material world. And so what you see now actually is much of a reformation thanks to the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhakti Yoga process. So, let's see. Vidura is entering the scene. In this chapter, Dhritarashtra is going to get a second chance from all his sinful kind of activities throughout the Mahabharata. He paid a very bad price with 100 sons he lost, and now he has to live under the Pandavas who kind of were responsible for murdering his sons, and so it's a very painful position for him, but he's going to get redemption now, the opportunity for redemption. It's actually very hopeful because all of us make mistakes, None of us are in this material world perfect. If you're perfect, you're not going to be in this material world. So even if someone as sinful as Dhritarashtra gets a second chance and gets a shot at good advice. So it's hopeful for maybe many of us who've made many mistakes. I know myself, I make thousands of offenses daily. So we have one like Madhav is offering right now, and one of the aparad prayers is aparadhe. It's not coming to my mind. But one of the aparad prayers, the English translation is, "Oh my Lord, I make thousands of offenses to you every day, but please excuse me, and consider me your insignificant servant." So we have the chance to always repent. So here's Dhritarashtra's chants. Yavata kritavan prashnan kshata koshadavagrataha jataika bhaktir govinde tebhyaschopararamaha. Okay, and just so we do the English, the first verse we did last time of this chapter, Sutta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya, and then returned to Hastinapur. He became as well versed in the subject as he desired. So Vidura actually reached like complete enlightenment, and now he's going to come back and share that enlightenment with all, especially Dhritarashtra. So Yavataha, all that. Kritavan, did he put. Prashnan, questions. Kshata, a name of Vidura. Kosharava, a name of Maitreya. Agrataha, in the presence of. Jata, having grown up. Eka, one. Bhakti, transcendental loving service. Govinde, unto Lord Krishna. Tebyaha, regarding further questions. Cha, and. Upara Rama, retired from. Ha, in the past. After asking various questions and becoming established in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, Vidura retired from putting questions to Maitreya Muni. Purport. Vidura retired from putting questions before Maitreya Muni when he was convinced by Maitreya Rishi that the summum bonum of life is to be finally situated in the transcendental loving service of Lord Sri Krishna, who is Govinda, or one who satisfies his devotees in all respects. The conditioned soul, the living being in material existence, seeks happiness by employing his senses in the modes of materialism, but that cannot give him satisfaction. So the conditioned soul, the living being in material existence, seeks happiness by employing his senses in the modes of materialism, but that cannot give him satisfaction. He then searches after the supreme truth by the empiric, philosophic, speculative method and intellectual feats. But if he does not find the ultimate goal, he again goes down to material activities and engages himself in various philanthropic and altruistic works, which all fail to give him satisfaction. So neither fruitive activities nor dry philosophical speculation can give one satisfaction, because by nature a living being is the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and all the Vedic literatures give him direction towards that ultimate end. The Bhagavad Gita 15:15 confirms this statement. So, we'll just read this last paragraph. Like Vidura, an inquisitive, conditioned soul must approach a bona fide spiritual master like Maitreya, and by intelligent inquiries must try to know everything about karma, fruitive activities, jnana, philosophical research for the supreme truth, and yoga, the linking process of spiritual realization. One who is not seriously inclined to put questions before a spiritual master need not accommodate a show bottle spiritual master, nor should a person who may be a spiritual master for others pose to be so if he is unable to engage his disciple ultimately in the transcendental loving service of Lord Sri Krishna. Vidura was successful in approaching such a spiritual master like Maitreya, and he got the ultimate goal of life, bhakti, unto Govinda. Thus there was nothing to be known further about spiritual progress. This whole illumination of Vidura's will become our illumination in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, if you remember. Maybe you don't. But he actually approached Krishna's dearest devotee in Dwarka. Do you know who it is? Vidura. Who did he approach? Do you remember? Uddhav, yes. He approached Uddhav, who's actually Krishna's dearest devotee in Dwarka, who he actually showed Vrindavan. Not many get to actually see Vrindavan. But anyhow, because Uddhav was younger than him in position, he didn't feel comfortable giving him like spiritual instructions. So even though he was topmost, very qualified, but he said, When Krishna illuminated me on all this subject matter, Maitreya Rishi was also present. So you go to Maitreya. So he told him where Maitreya was. And then Vidura went to Maitreya, and he got all of the transcendental knowledge needed to completely satisfy him. And now he's ready to share that with others. So actually we get a little taste of that right now. So we'll carry on. Also in this purport, there was some hints at, how nothing other than ultimately seeking the absolute truth will ever satisfy anybody. And if you don't go through the process of seeking the absolute truth, your destination is to never be satisfied. So everyone has to do it, male, female, those in animal bodies, plant bodies, but only few actually have the proper tool to do it, which is a human body. So you have the human body. So please use your life as such by reading the Bhagavatam. Tang bandhum agatang drishtva Dharma putra sahanujaha Dhritarashtra yuyutsuscha Sutta sharadvata prita Gandhari Draupadi Brahman Subhadra Chotara Kripi Anyascha Jamaya Pandor Gyataya Sasuta Striyaha Tam, him, Bandhum, relative, Agatam, having arrived there, Drishtva, by seeing it, Dharma Putra, Yudhishthir, Saha Anujaha, along with his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Yuyutsu, Satyaki, Cha, and Sutta, Sanjaya, Sharadvata, Kripacharya, Pritha Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Brahman, O Brahmanas, Subhadra, Cha, and Uttara, Kripi, Anya, others, Cha, and Jamaya, wives of other family members, Pando, of the Pandavas, Gyatayaha, family members, Sasuta, along with their sons, Striya, the ladies. Translation: when they saw Vidura return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaj Yudhishthir, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjaya, Kripacharya, Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, Uttara, Kripi, many other wives of the Kauravas and other ladies with children all hurried to him in great delight. It so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long period. Purport. Oh, we're going to get a ton of bio today. Gandhari, the ideal chaste lady in the history of the world. She was the daughter of Maharaj Subala, the king of Gandhara, now Kandahar and Kabul. And in her maiden state, she worshipped Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is generally worshipped by Hindu maidens to get a good husband. Gandhari satisfied Lord Shiva, and by his benediction to obtain 100 sons, she was betrothed to Dhritarashtra, despite his being blind forever. When Gandhari came to know that her would-be husband was a blind man, to follow her life companion, she decided to become voluntarily blind. This is like a level of chastity it doesn't exist, in Kali Yuga. But because, my husband's blind, I'll also become blind. This is her mood, actually. So she wrapped up her eyes with many silk linens, and she was married to Dhritarashtra under the guidance of her elder brother Shakuni. She was the most beautiful girl of her time, and she was equally qualified by her womanly qualities, which endeared every member of the Kaurava court. But despite all her good qualities, she had the natural frailties of a woman, and she was envious of Kunti when the latter gave birth to a male child. You may know with men and women, these bodies have different modes of nature, and there is some prone... women tend to be very competitive with other women. This is, just part of it. Men also tend to be very competitive with other men, but there's different circumstances. But she was envious of Kunti. She wanted a child before her, also, so her child would be heir to the king, but it didn't work out that way. So both the queens were pregnant, but Kunti first gave birth to a male child. Thus Gandhari became angry and gave a blow to her own abdomen. As a result, she gave birth to a lump of flesh only. But since she was a devotee of Vyasadeva, by the instruction of Vyasadeva, the lump was divided into 100 parts, and each part gradually developed to become a male child. This is actually one of the stories in the Mahabharata. This is how the Kauravas were born. But also it teaches you some things, not, when you're pregnant, not to give a blow to your abdomen and things like that. But so on. So as a result, she gave, yes, I read that. Thus her ambition to become the mother of 100 sons was fulfilled, and she began to nourish all the children according to her exalted position. When the intrigue of the battle of Kurukshetra was going on, she was not in favor of fighting with the Pandavas. Rather, she blamed Dhritarashtra, her husband, for such fratricidal war. She desired that the state be divided into 2 parts for the sons of Pandu and her own. She was very affected when all her sons died in the battle of Kurukshetra, and she wanted to curse Bhimasen and Yudhishthir, but she was checked by Vyasadeva. Her mourning over the death of Duryodhana and Dushasan before Lord Krishna was very pitiful, and Lord Krishna pacified her by transcendental messages. She was equally aggrieved on the death of Karna, and she described to Lord Krishna the lamentation of Karna's wife. She was pacified by Srila Vyasadeva when he showed her dead sons, then promoted to the heavenly kingdoms. She died along with her husband in the jungles of the Himalayas, near the mouth of the Ganges. She burnt in a forest fire. Maharaj Yudhishthira performed the death ceremony of his uncle and aunt. So that actually will happen in this chapter. But she also is the reason that Krishna, the external reason that Krishna left this world. It was by her curse of Krishna that he accepted to take, that he would leave the world in such a way. In the fratricidal war that she was forced to be part of, and she kind of blamed Krishna because Krishna is the orchestrator of everything. Now your dynasty will also have to do that, and that's how the Yadu dynasty actually leaves this world. So actually, she's a very powerful personality. She's has really all good qualities as a woman, but due to the modes of nature also and circumstance, she also got caught on the wrong side of things, which happens time to time. Actually, it's guaranteed to happen in this material world if you stay long enough, which is why even great personalities like Bhishma, so many great personalities, they get caught on the wrong side of something. And so everything is orchestrated like that in the material world. But Pritha, daughter of Maharaj Shirasen and sister of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna's father, later she was adopted by Maharaj Kunti Bhoj, and hence she is known as Kunti. She is the incarnation of the success potency of the personality of Godhead. The heavenly denizens from the upper planets used to visit the palace of King Kunti Bhoj, and Kunti was engaged for their reception. She also served the great mystic sage Durvasa, and being satisfied by her faithful service, Durvasa Muni gave her a mantra by which it was possible for her to call for any demigod she pleased. As a matter of inquisitiveness, she at once called for the sun god, who desired couplement with her, but she declined. But the sun god assured her immunity from virgin adulteration, and so she agreed to his proposal. So actually this idea of an immaculate conception this was a Vedic thing far longer, even before the modern Christian immaculate conception. Where she kept her virginity but still had it was able to bear a child. So anyhow, as a result of this compliment, she became pregnant, and Karna was born by her. By the grace of the sun, she again turned into a virgin girl, but being afraid of her parents, she quitted the newly born child, Karna. After that, when she actually selected her own husband, she preferred Pandu to be her husband. Maharaj Pandu later wanted to retire from family life and adopt the renounced order of life. Kunti refused to allow her husband to adopt such life, but at last Maharaj Pandu gave her permission to become a mother of sons by calling some other suitable personalities. Kunti did not accept this proposal at first, but when vivid examples were set by Pandu, she agreed. You know this pastime, how Pandu, he was hunting in the forest and he became bewildered in his thirst, and he shot deers mating, and the deer actually ended up being sages. And so the story goes, since you killed me, it's not that he shouldn't have shot deer, it's that you should never kill anything while it's mating. So, but because he was kind of bewildered in a stupor, he wasn't so sharp with his judgment, and he killed this deer's mating. And so he said, just like you've killed me while mating, you shall also die the next time you mate. So then eventually a man can fight for so long, but then eventually the power of the material modes of nature will impel one, and it eventually impelled him with Madri, his second wife, after the Pandavas were born. And so, but anyway, that's how the Pandavas got born of demigods, because Kunti had this boon from Durvasa Rishi, and if the husband agrees to such a thing, you can give birth, due to the circumstance, so he gave her permission to couple with demigods, and like that's how the Pandavas were born. Seems legendary. How can this happen? From our puny understanding and vantage point, it seems like maybe a legend, or like what would be called a fairy tale or mythology. But we really don't know anything. So, but this is the account given in the Mahabharata. Anyhow, where am I? She referred. Kunti refused. Kunti refused to allow her husband to adopt such life, but at last Maharaj Pandu gave her permission to become a mother of sons. By calling some other suitable personalities, Kunti did not accept the proposal at first, but when vivid examples were set by Pandu, she agreed. Thus, by dint of the mantra awarded by Durvasa Muni, she called for Dharmaraj, and thus Yudhishthira was born. This is also good, she's a very chaste woman, so actually she had a lot of loyalty to her husband. It's not that she's like, all right, well, you can't mate, you're going to die by a curse, so please let me mate. But he actually is saying, no, please, we need sons. I cannot reach the perfection of my life without sons. And she's saying, no, I can never be with any other man. You're the whole of my life. This is a very, very chaste and proper type of marriage arrangement. But anyhow, because she loved him and he insisted, and he gave scriptural examples. This is very important. He gave scriptural examples on other circumstances in history that she ended up doing. Again, we should follow that type of, when we see in scripture is validating a request of us, then we should follow. If scripture is validating something, we should follow. And if someone is giving examples from the scripture and it's shastric, then we're obliged actually to do. So she actually became obliged, even though she didn't want to do. So she called, and she called for Dharmaraj, who's Yamaraj, and thus Yudhishthira was born. Next she called for the demigod Vayu, air, and thus Bhima was born. Then she called for Indra, the king of heaven, and thus Arjuna was born. The other two sons, namely Nakula and Sahadev, were begotten by Pandu himself in the womb of Madri. I didn't know that, actually. Later on, Maharaj Pandu died at an early age. I wonder if that got edited out in a later version, because I have the original version. It's from, I don't know about you guys, but the account I heard was that Kunti gave her boon to Madri, and Madri had twins from the Ashwini Kumar demigods.
Yeah, I didn't think it was actually Pandu.
So I don't know. Maybe that this original translation in it, because they didn't do the greatest editing in the beginning. Maybe that was I don't know, but that's what it says for right now. They were begotten by Pandu himself in the womb of Madri. Later on, Maharaj Pandu died in an early age, for which Kunti was so aggrieved that she fainted. Two co-wives, namely Kunti and Madri, decided that Kunti should live for the maintenance of the 5 minor children, the Pandavas, and Madri should accept the sati rituals by meeting voluntary death along with her husband. This agreement was endorsed by great sages like Shatashringa and others present on the occasion. So Pandu eventually did succumb to his desire to mate, and the whole account is told in the Mahabharata, but he grabbed Madri in romance, and even she was very happy to be embraced by him, but also fearful because she knew he would die, and but in the passion of lust, any stupid thing can be done. And so, anyway, she passed, And then there was a whole dispute. Kunti wanted to be the one. Do you know what sati is? You know, you'll set like a funeral pyre, and then the wife, being, because this is the Vedic conception, the wife is so attached to the husband, she wants to follow the husband in death too. And so it was decided that because he approached Madri in lust at the end, he wanted me, so I have to go. I have to go with him. So Madri, and you're better with the children anyway. Take care of the children. So Kunti took care of the Pandavas, but now she's widowed, and then Madri was left with Pandu. So this is how the scene is set for the whole Pandavas arrangement. So anyway, later on, when the Pandavas were banished from the kingdom by the intrigues of Duryodhana, Kunti followed her sons, and she equally faced all sorts of difficulties during those days. During the forest life, one demon girl, Hidimba, wanted Bhima as her husband. Bhima refused, but when the girl approached Kunti and Yudhishthira, they ordered Bhima to accept her proposal and give her a son. As a result of this combination, Gatotchaka, how do you say? Gatotkacha was born. And he fought very valiantly with his father against the Kauravas. In their forest life, they lived with a Brahmin family that was in trouble because of one Bakasura demon, and Kunti ordered Bhima to kill the Bakasura to protect the Brahmin family against troubles created by the demon. These are all stories in the Mahabharata, and they'll be much elaborated if you ever go through it. But she advised Yudhishthira to start for Panchaladesh. Draupadi was gained in the Panchaladesh by Arjuna, but by order of Kunti, all 5 of the Pandava brothers became equally the husbands of Panchali or Draupadi. You know this pastime, how this happened? Arjuna wins Draupadi, and they came back to surprise Kunti, and then upon coming back to surprise Kunti, and they said, "Mother, we have the greatest wealth today." And Kunti didn't see what the wealth was, but she said, "Well, whatever it is, you should all share it equally." So because she said like that, actually now they're very dharmic. Her words will never prove false. So they actually had to arrange, and there was a whole dispute. Is this Shastrik? Is this not Shastrik? And the Shastrik or dharmic thing to do for Yudhishthira and everyone else was to share Draupadi equally. So very interesting. And Draupadi had a past also with Lord Shiva where she was given a boon that she would have 5 husbands. So anyway, it all has to work out like that. She was married with 5 Pandavas in the presence of Vyasadeva. Kunti Devi never forgot her first child, Karna, and after Karna's death in the battle of Kurukshetra, she lamented and admitted before her other sons that Karna was their eldest son prior to her marriage with Maharaj Pandu. Actually, we were telling, who was it? It was Maharaj was telling, Bhakti Swarup Sridhar Maharaj, he was telling the pastime of why in this age now ladies cannot keep secrets anymore. Because it's actually due to her keeping the secret of Karna's birth from Yudhishthira. And so he kind of cursed all the ladies in this age that this should not have ever happened. Any secret, a woman should never be able to keep a secret again. So if you really do want to keep a secret, you cannot tell ladies. sorry. And if you really want something to spread far and wide, like the Sankirtan movement, for instance, you tell every lady that you can find because they will spread. So it's very good. It's a blessing and a curse. So anyway, where am I? Kunti Devi never forgot her first child, Karna. After Karna's death in the battle of Kurukshetra, she lamented and admitted before other sons that Karna was her eldest son prior to her marriage with Maharaj Pandu. Her prayers for the Lord after the battle of Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna was going back home, are excellently explained. Later, she went to the forest with Gandhari for severe penance. She used to take meals after each 30 days. She finally sat down in profound meditation and later burnt ashes in a forest fire. So actually, she's going to leave at the end of this chapter as well. She will go with Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, which is interesting. Oh my God. We'll try and just finish this purport today. Draupadi, the most chaste daughter of Maharaj Drupada, and partly an incarnation of goddess Shachi, the wife of Indra. Maharaj Drupada performed a great sacrifice under the superintendence of the sage Yaja. By his first offering, Drishtadyumna was born, and by the second offering, Draupadi was born. She is therefore the sister of Drishtadyumna, and she is also named Panchali. The 5 Pandavas married her as a common wife, and each of them begot a son in her. Maharaj Yudhishthira begot a son named Pratabit, Bhimasen begot a son named Sutasoma, Arjuna begot Shrutakirti, Nakula begot Shatanika, and Sahadev begot Shrutakarma. What's that?
From whom Abhimanyu was there?
Abhimanyu is from Subhadra.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yes.
It was not Arjun's son?
It was Arjun's son.
I mean, yes,
Subhadra.
yes, but like
Arjuna and
Subhadra
Subhadra
was Krishna's sister.
Yes. So, very good. Okay, she is described as a most beautiful lady, equal to her mother-in-law, Kunti. During her birth, there was an arrow message that she should be called Krishna, like a message from the sky, if you didn't get what arrow message. So is that my phone doing that?
Yes. Ben is calling.
Why is Ben calling?
He also texted you a long message.
Oh, okay.
You can see the text if you have access.
No, it's okay. We'll get later. I'll handle this thing. So the same message also declared that she was born to kill many a Kshatriya. By dint of her blessings from Shankar, she was awarded 5 husbands equally qualified. When she preferred to select her own husband, princes and kings were invited from all the countries of the world. She was married with the Pandavas during their exile in the forest, but when they went back home, Maharaj Drupada gave them immense wealth as a dowry. She was well received by all the daughters-in-law of Dhritarashtra. When she was lost in a gambling game, she was forcibly dragged into the assembly hall, and an attempt was made by Dushasan to see her naked beauty, even though there were elderly persons like Bhishma and Drona present. She was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and by her praying, the Lord himself became an unlimited garment to save her from the insult. A demon of the name Jatasura kidnapped her, but her second husband, Bhimasen, killed the demon and saved her. She saved the Pandavas from the curse of Maharishi Durvasa by the grace of Lord Krishna. When the Pandavas lived incognito in the palace of Virata, Kichaka was attracted by her exquisite beauty, and by arrangement with Bhima, the devil was killed and she was saved. She was very much aggrieved when her 5 sons were killed by Ashvatthama, and at the last stage she accompanied her husband Yudhishthira and others and fell on the way. The cause of her falling was explained by Yudhishthira, but when Yudhishthira entered the heavenly planet, he saw Draupadi gloriously present there as the goddess of fortune in the heavenly planet. You know of this pastime? When this will actually happen soon in the Bhagavatam. But all the 5 Pandavas, they go to the Himalayan mountains, and there's a certain mountain that leads to the stairway to heaven, and only Yudhishthira was able to make it. And each Pandava, and first was Draupadi to fall. They fell due to some inequity in their dharmic practices. One small fault, and Draupadi's fault was that she didn't see all the Pandavas truly equally. She always favored Arjuna.
And what was the fault of others?
It's hard to remember each such one, but I do. Not Nakula was vain. He was a little. He was so proud of his handsomeness. Sahadev was proud of his wisdom, that I'm so smart, because he was very wise, and he was proud of this and appreciated being praised by others. And Nakula appreciated being praised. Arjuna was that he actually fell before Bhima, but Arjuna was that he, from what I've heard, is that he made inappropriate vows that couldn't be upkept. You know, he would make like crazy vows sometimes, like what was it? In the battle of Kurukshetra, he made all kinds of vows, and Krishna saved him and allowed him to preserve some of his vows, but some of at least one or two could not be accomplished, because he was just known for making like crazy vows. So anyway, and then Bhima was that he ate too much and he wasn't considerate of others in his eating, and ultimately Yudhishthira, he was the only one who went all the way to the top, because actually he was flawless in his dharmic practice. But in the bhakti realm, he actually did have one flaw, Do you know?
That
Yeah.
he kept quiet when the thing was happening.
No, that actually wasn't even a flaw. The only flaw was in the Battle of Kurukshetra, when you have to go today, Craig.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Hare Krishna. Thanks for joining us. His one flaw was in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Krishna had requested that he cross Dharma, and Yudhishthir couldn't put Krishna's command above worldly Dharma
Ashwatthama thing?
with the Ashvatthama thing. Yes, so
But he did that eventually.
he didn't fully listen, because he wanted him to say Ashvatthama is dead, but he also slightly mumbled the elephant, because he was unable to fully take Krishna's order. He was actually, his chariot was levitating on the ground, and then because of that it came back down to the earth, due to actually some worldly attachment. And that it teaches us attachment to worldly dharma should never supersede Bhagavat dharma. So these are some small semantics. But in worldly dharma, as far as that's concerned, Yudhishthira was perfect in every respect. So anyway, this is nice. Oh, okay, we just about made it. Subhadra, daughter of Vasudeva and sister of Lord Sri Krishna. She was not only a very dear daughter of Vasudeva, but also a very dear sister to both Krishna and Baladev. The two brothers and sister are represented in the famous Jagannath temple of Puri, and the temple is still visited by thousands of pilgrims daily. This temple is in remembrance of the Lord's visit at Kurukshetra during an occasion of solar eclipse, and his subsequent meeting with the residents of Vrindavan. The meeting of Radha and Krishna during this occasion is a very pathetic story. Not like how maybe we put... actually, I will Google pathetic, because pathetic is a very negative, but it means arousing pity, especially through vulnerability or sadness, and that's the actual... but at least people use patheticness as like kind of a sharp thing, at least how I've ever heard it. But it's a very pathetic story where it arouses a lot of pity and sadness, from Radha and Krishna. And Lord Sri Krishna and Lord Sri Chaitanya, in the ecstasy of Radharani, always pined for Lord Sri Krishna at Jagannath Puri. While Arjuna was at Dwaraka, he wanted to have Subhadra as his queen, and he expressed his desire to Lord Krishna. Sri Krishna knew that his elder brother, Lord Baladev, was arranging her marriage elsewhere. Actually, it was to Duryodhana. Yes. And since he did not dare to go against the arrangement of Baladev, he advised Arjuna to kidnap Subhadra. So when all of them were on a pleasure trip on the Raivata hill, Arjuna managed to kidnap Subhadra according to the plan of Sri Krishna. This was like Kshatriya Dharma. Like if you if you can take a queen, and like the queens liked it too. Like, wow, he's strong. He like went and conquered all these armies to go take me. So it's totally does not make any sense to the modern understanding of how courtship should go, and it would break all kinds of world rules. But this is how it was done, actually. So anyhow, Krishna actually plotted with Arjuna. He didn't want to cross Baladev's order, but he said, if you kidnap him, this is the only etiquette in which Baladev will have to accept the fate. So he did. So Baladev was very angry at Arjuna, and he wanted to kill him, but Lord Krishna implored his brother to excuse Arjuna. Then Subhadra was duly married with Arjuna, and Abhimanyu was born of Subhadra. At the premature death of Abhimanyu, Subhadra was very mortified, but on the birth of Parikshit, she was happy and solaced. So a lot of biography today, and a lot of Mahabharata. The past few days have been like that. But Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Bhaktavrinda ki jai. So thanks for joining. We'll continue on. Tomorrow we have our Wednesday evening program, so we won't do Bhagavatam in the morning, but we'll do some abridged morning program. And then we'll focus on Wednesday evening. I think we're going to get back to Nectar of Instruction, which is it's good. It's very, very good.